growing up, I had this woman named Miss Janet she was like a second mother to me. She taught me how to play baseball, she taught me how to play football, and she taught me how to treat a lady. There's not a time in my life, literally, where I'm walking on a sidewalk with my wife or one of my daughters where I don't hear Miss Janet whisper in my ear, telling me, I'm telling you right now, Chris, you better be on the side of that sidewalk closest to the road, because if a car jumps that curb, it better be hitting you and not her. She taught me that anytime that you pick up a lady, that you never honk the horn. That you go up to the door and you meet her there and you walk her to the car, open the door, and you close it. She taught me that anytime you're with anybody or anywhere, you make sure you open the door for anybody and everybody. She taught me to never wear a hat when I'm eating a meal. And probably one of the most greatest things that she taught me that I still live by today, well, I still live by the rest of that stuff, but is when helping someone, never expect anything but a thank you, because that's all you will ever need. I remember when I was 11 years old, and I was with my friend Bobby, and Miss Janet came up to me and Bobby, and she's like, hey, do you boys care to help out Paul at the station? And Paul was her dad. I don't know what his real name was, but her mom and dad was named Ma and Paul, and that's what we called them growing up, as Ma and Paul, and they owned this gas station in town. So she came up to us and asked us if we'd help them. And I'm like, yeah, what do you need? Like, when is this? She's like, well, how about tomorrow morning at 9, you and Bobby go down there and you help them with some landscaping. Ma wants it cleaned up a little bit. And I'm like, all right, we can do that. So Bobby stayed the night that night, and we got up in the morning and rode our bikes into town. Mind you, I have gone to this gas station probably twice a week for as long as I can remember up to this point, and I have never, ever noticed the landscaping that it was in there. So I pull up with my bike, and it's like I pulled up to the Amazon rainforest. Like, it was so overgrown. I mean, weeds were taller than I am now. Like, we literally had to take machetes and cut them down just so we could be able to mow it later. Like, it was awful. So I looked at Bobby and I said, man, we're gonna be out here like an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. 8.5 hours later, we were finally done. And I remember sitting there on the curb outside, and here comes Paul outside the door with his hands behind his back saying, boys, you all did an amazing job. Like, you guys went far beyond my expectations. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And I see him walking up to us with his hands behind his back, and I'm thinking, we're about to get paid. Like, it's on. Like, he's going to give us like $100 or something. I was 11 years old. $100 seemed like $1 million at that time. I was so excited, and I'm sitting there thinking in my mind, like, what am I going to buy? Egg rolls. I'm going to buy some shrimp egg rolls. That's what I want. I want some shrimp egg rolls. So he's coming up to me, and I'm sitting there thinking this. I'm like looking at Bobby, nudging him, like, oh, it's on, man, you know. He's coming up to us, and he's like, boys, you guys did an amazing job, and I just wanted to give you guys a little something. Thank you guys so much. And then placed it in our hands. And I remember looking down, and it was a can of pop and a candy bar. 8.5 hours worth of work, and I got a candy bar and a can of pop. I literally didn't even take a break. Seriously. Like, the only time we stopped was get a drink of water. And it was, I think, if you look back on that record, it was the hottest day ever in the world. It was, my fingertips were bleeding because I pulled so many weeds. My hands were stuck like this for years because of, with machete and the lawnmower. And I still have some problems with my hands cramping up when my wife asked me to do stuff. But it was so bad. And I was sitting there thinking, like, seriously? This is what you gave me? And I told him, I looked him straight in the face and I said, this is ridiculous. This is pathetic. How dare you give me this nothing? I'm just kidding, I didn't say that. If I said that, I wouldn't be here today. So what I really said was, you're welcome. Love to do it anytime. Why? Because I was raised, when you help somebody, all you need is a thank you. It's all you ever need. So Miss Janet was so influential in my life that she taught me so many things that I will keep forever. So with saying all that, let me ask you all a question. If you knew you only had 1 month left to live, what do you think would be so important for you to pass on to your friends and family? Here's a better question. What would you be leaving them with? What would that be, that one thing that is so profound that you have to communicate to everyone that you know so they can hear it and know it came from you? And the truth is that no matter what you say or what you believe, you're always leaving something, whether it's an impression or an example of some sort. So in some shape or form, you're leaving everybody that you know or meet or talk to with some way that they're going to remember you by, whether that's good or whether that's bad. Miss Janet had no idea the things that she was teaching me growing up would be something that I could add to my life for the rest of my life, or something that I could even pass down to others. She is such an amazing woman, and she'll always have a special place in my heart. And the thing is that she was leaving a legacy, and she didn't even know it. And everyone in this room right now is leaving a legacy as well. I've heard it said before, that dash on your tombstone signifies who you were in life. That people will come and visit you at the cemetery, and they'll see the day that you were born and see the day that you died, and they'll reflect on who you were in between those dates. So for the past 4 weeks, we have been reflecting on who David was. We have brought down what his life was and how we can apply it to our own lives. So today, I want to share with you all the legacy of David. So what is it that we know about David? What is it? We know that he was the second king of Israel. We know he was a shepherd before that. We know he was the son of Jesse. We know he was the youngest of 8 brothers. We know that he could go up in front of a 9-foot, something taller than that giant and smack him in the face and not even care. Because he was fearless, because he knew he had God on his side, right? And then we learned about how great of a friend he was. We learned about him and Jonathan and how we need friendships in our own life. Last week, we learned about the bad choices we make because of David with Bathsheba, which, I don't know if you ever noticed this or not, but Bathsheba, and he saw her taking a bath. Have you ever made that? Is that why they call her Bathsheba? I don't know. But anyways, he made bad choices in his life, right? But how do we all remember David? We remember him as a man after God's own heart. And today, I would like to start at the end of David's life, here in 1 Chronicles. So where we are right now in 1 Chronicles is, catch you all up to where we are. So David is still king, he dies king, and he's bringing all the leaders of Israel into where he is with his son, Solomon. And he's sitting there telling them all these plans that he has to build God's temple. Because before they started building God's temple, they had these temporary tabernacles that they worshiped God in because they never stayed at one place. And David loved God so much, he's like, God, man, I want to give you this place that you could dwell with us forever. I want to build this for you because you are a great God. And I'm pretty sure that God looked at him and said, man, David, I love that you love me. You're an awesome guy. You're great, but you ain't building it. Like, you have shed way too much blood. You've been in too many wars and you've shed too much blood, so you're not building it. But I tell you what, I'll have your son Solomon build it for me. So he brings all these leaders and his son Solomon to there, and he's starting to tell them these plans that he has for this for God's temple. And he tells them he can't build it, that Solomon's going to have to build it. He's like, but I tell you right now, I have prepared a lot of stuff for you all right over here. So the day that I die, you all could just start breaking ground and start building this. He brought him there to tell him that, but he wanted them all to recognize Solomon, who's going to be the next leader of Israel. And as he had his son there with him, he looked at his son and he said this. Right here. He said this. How about I just read it to you? Oh, okay. And Solomon, my son, learn to know the God of your ancestors intimately. Worship and serve him with your whole heart and a will and mind. For the Lord sees every heart and knows every plan and thought. If you seek him, you will find him. But if you forsake him, he will reject you forever. Now, I'm pretty sure that David raised Solomon up in a home that honored, loved, and respected God every single day. I'm pretty sure that there wasn't a day that went by that Solomon didn't hear how great God was and how much I loved God. Like, he heard God so much. So why did David think that at the end of his life, he had to make sure that he said to Solomon what Solomon already knows? Because he knows it's that important. He wanted to make sure that some of the last words that he ever spoke was the most important thing of all. So, what can we learn at the end of David's life that we can apply to ourselves? What is this legacy that David is leaving with us? We can learn our purpose in life. How many of us know of somebody who dwells on this question daily? Like, what is my purpose in life? What am I supposed to do with my life? What am I supposed to pour my blood, sweat, and tears into? We all know we need to have a purpose. And we can find this purpose in the verse we just read. Solomon, my son, learn to know the God of your ancestors intimately. Worship and serve him with your whole heart and a willing mind. For the Lord sees every heart and knows every plan and thought. If you seek him, you will find him. But if you forsake him, he will reject you forever. So David here is not giving us a purpose. He is not giving us an option to choose from. He is giving us the purpose in life. And it is this. It is to know God, serve God, and to seek God. So to know God, to do this, we must have a relationship with God. There's a difference in knowing of God and knowing God. Take Tom Brady, for example, okay? We can know all the stats that he ever does. We can know all the touchdowns he ever throws, all the records he's broken. We can know all the footballs he's deflated. We can even know the clothes he wears and the food he eats. But does that mean that we know who he is? Nope. It just means we're a creepy fan. That's all it means. All we do is know about him. We don't know him at all. And the same thing goes for God. We can know everything there is to know about God by reading the Bible. But that does not mean we know God. That just means that you can win at Bible trivia. I know atheists who know the Bible front to back, side to side, even upside down, but they don't know God. They have no idea who he is. They just know of him. That's all they ever know. So, to know God, we must have a relationship with God. We need to be intimate with him, we need to be near to him, and then we need to be invested in him. Just like a marriage would never last if you only spent 1 to 2 hours a week with each other. Or maybe it would. I don't know. Sometimes there are some, not me. I want to be with my wife every day. But just like any relationship would never last if you only spent 1 to 2 hours a week with that person. The same thing goes with God. If you think that showing up here on a Sunday morning and listening to me or Pastor Shane preach and then going to a Sunday school is all you ever need to do to have a relationship with God, because it's not. It's more than that. It's a 24-hour day, 7 days a week, 365-day involvement with God. That is how we know God. We make him central to who we are. It means you are a child of God before you are anything else. You are a child of God before you are a mother. You are a child of God before you are a father. You are a child of God before you're an athlete, a child of God before you are a student. You are a child of God before you are a wife or a husband. You are a child of God before you are a friend. And you are a child of God before you are a farmer. If you have asked Christ to come into your heart, you are a child of God before anything else. It all flows from this understanding that you know God, that you belong to God. That if you say whatever it is that you are before you are a child of God, then you will miss out on his fruitfulness. If you say, I am this or I am that, and you only think of God occasionally, then you will miss out on his fruitfulness. But if you put God first and make it about him over you, then you will be fruitful. That is what it is to know God. So first, we need to know God. Second, we need to serve God. Serving God is the evidence of knowing God. So let me explain that for a minute. When we serve one another or help one another in our homes, our churches, our community, the evidence of us doing that shows that we have a relationship with God, which shows that we know God, which shows that our hearts have been touched by God. It is almost impossible to serve God without knowing him. How many of us in our lives have ever been bored sitting in church? Some of you may be bored right now, and that's okay. But the thing is when we go to church and we feel like we're just going through the motions and we're doing it because we feel like we have to because we're serving God, that is serving God without knowing God. Then there are those who know God and don't serve God. You say, I know God, but I ain't doing anything. Like, I know God, and that's all I need to know. You leave me alone with all that serving stuff. I don't need it. But the reality of it is that you can't have one without the other. You have to know God to serve God, and you serve God by knowing God. I heard someone once say this right here. Serving God without knowing God is slavery. Knowing God without serving God is disloyalty. But knowing God and serving God is love. That is that huge section on your bulletin. If you're filling it out, that's what this is. Serving God without knowing God is slavery. Knowing God without serving God is disloyalty. But knowing God and serving God is love. And that is what David is teaching in this passage. We are all called to serve. Look at Jesus. What did he do? He came down here to do what? To serve us, right? So shouldn't we do exactly what he did? We are a church of disciples making disciples. So what is a disciple? We have defined it here at New Hope that a disciple is someone who is becoming more like Christ. So yeah, we should do whatever Christ did. We should take his example and follow it and apply it to our own lives. When we hear the word serve, it may scare some of us. I know that when I first started serving here at New Hope, I was scared to death. I didn't think I knew enough. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was smart enough. I thought I would fail. I thought I would discredit New Hope or God. I just had all these bad feelings. And it kept me away from serving for such a long time. And I don't know what keeps you away from serving. Maybe it is that you feel inadequate. Maybe you don't feel like you're smart enough or that you're going to fail. I don't know what it is that keeps you from serving. But I want you to know that when someone says, hey, can you help me serve? I want you to start thinking gospel math. And you're all looking at me like, what is gospel math? And I'd love to explain it to you. I had a professor, Professor Young, explain to me what gospel math is, and I'm going to use it in the terms for serving. So when someone comes up to you and says, hey, can you help me serve over here? And the immediate response that comes out in your head is, I don't want to serve. Think gospel math. So Jesus, who is above me, came down here to serve me. So that means I should serve others. So what gospel math is whatever Jesus did or whatever Jesus said, I need to add that to my life. But whatever Jesus didn't do, I need to subtract that from my life. That's gospel math. So if someone asks you to serve, remember, Jesus served. He was above me, came down and served me. So that means I must serve others. The purpose of life we find through David is to know God, second is to serve God, and third is to seek God. It says here in this passage, if you seek him, you will find him. It doesn't say if you seek him, you may find him. It doesn't say if you seek him, if he's available, you will find him. It says you will find him. I remember, you all remember when you were a little kid, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, and you went to the grocery store with your mom. And as soon as you walked in there, you went to the aisle that had all the toys or all the candy. Remember that? You go in there and you get excited. And you just look at all the stuff that you've ever wanted, like your whole life is in front of you. Anything you ever need is right there. And you get lost in a moment. And you're just mesmerized by everything you see. And then you grab something to go ask your mom if you can have it, and you turn around and she's gone. She's nowhere to be found. Remember that fear that you had because you just lost one of the most important people in your life. You were scared to death because you had no idea what was going to happen to you. So what did you do? You took off running down every aisle till you found her, right? You walked down the first aisle, nope. Second aisle, nope. Down the third aisle, nope. Your heart is pounding. It's so bad. That fear is like, you ever had fear in your knees where it makes your knees ache and shake? That's the kind of fear you have now. You're running through these aisles. Go down the fourth aisle, nope. Down the fifth aisle, nope. Down the sixth aisle. Finally, you find your mama. And there she is. And all that fear just fades away, and all is right in the world once again. You are good to go. The thing is this world we live in is just one big grocery store that we go to with God. That's all it is. But somewhere in it, we stopped and got distracted, and we lost sight of God. We put the focus on our wants and our desires for just a moment, or it felt like just a moment, and looked up, and God was gone. Not because he left us, but because we left him. But this is the great thing about God's grocery store. The moment that you lose him, you don't have to go run down every aisle till you find him. All you have to do is call out to his name, and he'll be there. Every single time. So if we seek him, we will find him. But the verse doesn't end there. In the verse, it keeps reading this. But if you forsake him, he will reject you forever. If you think losing your mom in a grocery store is the worst fear you could ever have, imagine losing the greatest thing ever. Imagine losing our source of life, our sustainer, our happiness, our joy. Everything good in the world comes from God. And being separated from him should be the worst fear that we ever experience. Sometimes we want to hide from God because we don't want to know what we're doing. I know in my life I've done that many times. Like, hey, pump your brakes right there, Scooter. 1 second. You wait right there. I'm going to come over here and do my thing. Wait for just 1 minute. And then you go off and do it. And you think God's not watching when he really is. But it makes you feel better thinking he's not watching. But how scary is it knowing that he rejects you forever? When you don't want him, he's not there. And even when you do want him, he's not there. He's just gone. So the alternative to seeking God is abandoning God. To forsake him is to choose an identity in the opposite direction. The Bible calls this being lost. You are not lost because you're going to a bad destination. You're going to a bad destination because you are lost. So many people are lost. But God brought his son Jesus to seek and save all those who are lost. It is Jesus who saves us from the darkness, and it is Jesus who saves us from being lost. Here's the best way to describe on how to seek God. So I want everybody to grab, this is going to be on the bulletin, so I want everybody to grab a pen, a pencil, marker, crayon, piece of charcoal. If you got to prick your finger and write it in your own blood, I want you all to write this down right here. This is what I want you to write down. How do we seek God? By believing in Jesus. So how do we seek God? By believing in Jesus. Continue to believe in Jesus and not give up. Follow Jesus. Become more like Jesus, disciples who are making disciples. And at the end of 1 Chronicles 28:9, it says, but if you forsake him, he will reject you. But look at what Jesus says in John 6:37. However, those the Father has given me will come to me, and I will never reject them. Seeking God by believing in Jesus is the most important part in our purpose of life. Without it, we get separated from God, and we don't get to go to heaven. With it, we gain everything. We get to spend eternal life with God. At the beginning, I asked you a question. If you only had 1 month left to live, what would be that one thing that you would want to leave so people remembered you by? Although David did some great things throughout his life, at the end of his life, all he wanted was the leaders of Israel and his son to know the true purpose of life. He wanted them to know that no matter all these great things that he did, it was never about him, but about God. He didn't say, know me, David. He didn't say, serve me, David. He didn't say, seek me, David. He said to know, serve, and seek God. David spent most of his life living in a way that honored God and brought him glory. So for those who after him could see that and glorify God as well. And here's the bottom line. What are we living for now that we could leave for tomorrow? What are we living for now that we could leave for tomorrow? What are we representing in our lives? What are we representing in our lives now that we could leave for tomorrow for others? Is it to honor God above all things? I have this friend who never makes it about him, but always makes it about God. Like to the point to where it's annoying. Like it's never annoying that he loves God over himself, but it's to the point like if I kicked him in the face, I could ask him how he's doing. Like, how you doing? He'd look up and be blessed and highly favored. That's how annoying it is that he just wants to make everything about God. And I was sitting with him a couple months ago, and I remember telling him, like, this is morbid, by the way, but I said, man, I know if you die before me, I know exactly what I'm going to say at your funeral. I know exactly what I'm going to say. And he looked at me and he's like, oh yeah, what's that? And I said, I ain't going to talk about you at all, man. I'm going to get up there and I'm going to just tell everybody who Jesus is, and I'm going to pray for them. And he looked at me and he said, that's exactly how it should be. My friend knows what it is to live for now that we could leave for tomorrow. So just like David and my good friend, what are we living for now that we could leave for tomorrow? Let's pray. Father God, I pray for each and every person in this room today, that you be with them, that you watch over them, and that you guide them. That you allow them to know you, to choose you, and to make you above all else. Allow us to understand what it is that we live for now. Allow us to make it always about you. Allow us to have that heart like my friend does, that any time that anything is ever said or done, that we just make it about Jesus. I pray for your heart to come upon us and to give us that strength that no matter where we are or what we do, it's not that people look at us, but they look at you. We learned about David, Father, and just the great things he's done, but at the end, he wanted everybody to know it was about you. And I pray that we can do that with our own lives, that everything we say and everything that we do, we always make it about you. In your son's precious, wonderful name, amen. So